Hi everybody, Robert Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. Today's question: do I need other co-founders to found a startup? Do you need them? So in a formal sense, no, you don't need them. And the more resources you bring to the table, and let's be totally transparent here, the more money you can bring to the table, probably, the less you per se need it, or I should say the more you could get away with not having co-founders. But should you have co-founders? Yes, you totally should. This kind of relates to some other questions around, should I have a team, or things like that. But it's that you need other people's perspective, and I see it as a huge indicator too, in that the kinds of so one of the most important, really necessary initial things to found a startup is someone with, you could think of it as passion and vision, or maybe they're kind of an ideas person, or someone who's spotted some gap because they've worked in a few areas and they see how these kind of intersect, and they see this kind of emergent gap which no one else has spotted, right? So there's this kind of head first, idea first, kind of energized, motivating, visionary kind of thing going on. But if there's not other people around them to start to make it kind of businessy and feasible, and see how you might make a thing of this, and technically possible, creatable, producible, engineerable, then there's not a lot of way for that rubber to hit the road. There's not a lot of way for that idea to manifest in reality, right? Les McEwen talks about this, and he has this cool model where, so think of the 4 stages of organizational design and the different strengths they face, and he basically, so if you think about 4 stages and the 3 gaps between them, he just kind of said, all right, well, these are 7 stages and they're on this kind of spectrum, and you can go back and forth. So he draws out like this arc. But the way he frames it is, he calls these initial founding people, I think he calls them visionaries, right? And it's like visionaries, it's like super huge sense of potential. They never want to say no. And it's like they're always trying to push everyone forward and do something bigger and better. And also they kind of think the rules don't apply to them. So when you're kind of breaking new ground to start something, that's freaking great. When you have a 500-person organization and you're trying to establish clear, hard processes and standardization, having a person who thinks the rules don't apply to them is not so great, right? Or, whether it's the founder or whether it's, some upstart employee, that's not how you're trying to processify things. Anyway. Back to the kind of founding question. What this means is that the gaps of the visionary is that they need a bunch of these, so Les McEwen would call them operators around them, and it's the different other people that help run and do this thing. Have I seen it work when there's just one founder? Yes, but it hasn't worked for very long, which is to say that their objective from the start was an exit in a rather brief, let's say, 2 to 4 year time span, right? Or an acquisition in that period of time. And they already had money to start with, and they may have even had past startup exits, right? So in that sense, and I kind of look down on that attitude, because in that sense, the whole point of the startup is just a kind of financial arbitrage game. You can do this 3-4 year song and dance. You pull some good devs and engineers together. You have a team of, half a dozen people. You make a thing, and then people pay you X number of whatever, low 8 figures to get it. It's like, on some personal level, good that you could do that. On a macro, what's possible for startups and how should organizations be changing our society, I actually think that's kind of unethical. It's also, again, really risky, right? You have to really not only know your stuff, but come with enough resources and be able to spot problems early enough. And honestly, most people I know are not that self-aware. There's a control freak kind of quality which can be very bad. Which is to say, it's like the visionary in some sense, part of their job is to expand, and naturally the complement to that is they should be able to let go, so they can let their operators, other people to come in, other team members to do their job and contribute value and create this growing, thriving, sustainable organization, right? But if they can't do that, if they're these creative people in all these places, but yet they're also control freaks who are also not good at executing, you're basically doomed from the get-go. In that sense, just the kind of litmus test of, will other people work with this visionary founder? That's maybe a better indicator of where things are at. Yeah. People have different, not just strengths and weaknesses, but the those strengths and weaknesses are, add more or less value for different size organizations, which is again to say different size organizations experience different classic kind of strengths and gap areas they're dealing with, right? Which means almost your strengths are kind of best geared, best specialized for a certain size organization. So once you realize what size org, what size culture you fit best in, that's what you kind of should be moving towards. So yeah, there are serial entrepreneurs who will run a 5, 10, 15 person startup and do that cycle every 3 to 5 years and keep doing it, and that's what they do. And there might be people that work well in these 50, 200 person organizations. There might be people that only work well in, big, huge enterprise, thousands of people organizations, because they so much need those processes. Anyway, now we're getting into kind of some strategy and OD stuff. So back to the initial question, do you need a founder? No. Should you have a founder? Yes. And if someone told me they didn't want a founder, I would see that as a big red flag. Does this person want to work with others? If they're so visionary, how are they going to execute? That's my... I see that again and again. You got to be able to do something. Your startup can't just be a crazy dream that never can become reality. So, hope you learned something. I'm Robert Ogilvie, project manager and professional coach. I will talk to you guys again soon.